Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today we're going to talk about 9 alarming things you must know before hiring a marketing agency. And if you don't know these things, it costs you tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm here with Samantha Villenave. Sam actually joined Practice Promotions with us in 2020 as our digital account manager and has been working with client success for many years there. And she actually grew to be the senior team lead for the account managers there. And subsequently, she's done such a great job there that she's grown into our sales director role. But she's done a lot of work with practices in the marketing space. And even before working with us, she worked in developer relations for a marketing agency in Europe with Microsoft, BlackBerry, and other big brand names. She's also worked at running 3 different e-commerce brands and job recruiting brands in the recruiting space. So she's coming to us with a lot of experience here to chat about this topic. So welcome, Sam. Great to have you on the podcast with us.
Thank you, Neil. I'm excited.
Yeah, so let's dive in here. Let's talk about this. There's a lot of different businesses, different agencies, like everybody and their mother is doing digital marketing these
Yeah.
days. And so it can be really confusing for practice owners as they're looking at things that they need to have help with, like their website, or they're thinking about some digital marketing, or they're trying to get new patients in the door here. But we've both spoken with thousands of different practice owners and marketing directors over the years that have worked with a wide variety of agencies, and we've seen horror stories and we've seen success stories. And so let's talk about this a little bit here, where when we see a clinic owner that's saying, hey, I've been chatting with this other marketing agency here, and they're local, right? And they say that because I'm local, is that better than if they know about the physical therapy or the chiropractic industry? Like, what have you seen there?
I think that's an interesting point, Neil, because, local is such a different thing now than it was 30, 40 years ago. And when we talk about a local agency, they might be local to where that person is. But what the local marketing agencies might be missing is understanding those specifics about physical therapy, chiropractic, other healthcare verticals. Like they know, okay, this is how you do a little bit of SEO, but they don't know the strategy for healthcare, and they're applying the same tactics that they would be for the car wash. And that has an impact not only on HIPAA and issues that we could have there, but even how we would convert patients. So I think that that's real important. Obviously, committing to a plan of care with a physical therapist is going to be a lot different than if I want to find a restaurant. So we don't want to be using those light keywords that aren't really qualifying people and bringing in the right patients to the practice.
Yeah, we see that before, like they might be running Facebook campaigns or things like that, and that there's getting a lot of calls or people reaching out to the clinic, but they're really not very interested, right? And they're really not a good fit for that clinic. And so it's really knowing the nuances, right? And if you think about it, like every profession has its nuance. So even in the healthcare spectrum, like how you're going to market to be a physician's office is very different than how you're going to market, as a physical therapy office. It's a different experience for the patient when they go into that clinic, and there's different keywords and things that they're going to say or hear that's different than if you're going to be going into a physician's office, or the same thing if you go into a chiropractic office. It's going to be different in what that patient is hearing and looking for compared to other service. And then, what we see is if the person may be in a local space and say, hey, we're in this, in your town, we know what your town wants. But the reality is that the people want something knowledgeable in that space, right? And so if that agency is really trying to market them the same as a pet groomers, right, or a restaurant, or whatever else that they're marketing for, it's very, very different audiences that you need to know about.
That's 100% it. And we see a lot of the people that come to us, they might have a pretty website, but then if you dig in, it's not really performing, with the tools we have that we can see that the SEO is doing well. and their Google rankings are suffering. And then there's going to be calls to action like, hey, get a free consult. Well, that's not necessarily what's going to bring in the right kind of patients into the practice. So I think that's real important. I've also seen it where a client will come to us, or someone who wants to be a client, and they talk about, oh, do you do remarketing campaigns, retargeting? And that's like a big buzzword in marketing. And you can do that for the pet groomers, like you mentioned. I don't know if you guys, a way to describe it would be, if you're on, um, if I'm on Ann Taylor, and then I go over to YouTube, and that suit that I was looking at is following me around, right? That's remarketing. You can't do that in healthcare. So a lot of clinics don't realize that, and they're trusting their agency to these people, and then they end up with a HIPAA violation because they were following somebody around that got reported. So that's a big,
Yeah.
big.
There's a lot of restrictions on healthcare, unfortunately, when it comes to marketing, and there's understandably why. And what you were just saying there, like, in the Google ad space, right, with remarketing, you can't do that. Google has its policies, and there's ways that people try to get around that. But, Google doesn't like you to, they just don't want to really remarket healthcare at all. Facebook and Instagram, you can do those things, but you got to be really careful, and you got to have systems in place that kind of hide IP addresses and trackability and things like that. So it becomes a much more complicated in the healthcare space. And if that agency doesn't know about that, then they're putting you at risk, right? For violating HIPAA there. One thing I saw recently was like I saw this agency that was doing social posts, right, for clinics, and they were showing like how they would create audiences, right, in Facebook and Instagram, and they would do it by uploading the patient list into Facebook, which is a complete no. You cannot do that. Facebook is not a HIPAA compliant
No.
storage for your patient list. So if you are thinking about that, if you've done that in the past, like uploading your patient list to build your Facebook audience, you can't do that, right? And so those are just some of the things that can put you at risk. The other thing that we've seen too is from website forms, right? So
Yeah.
website forms, again, have to have some level of security and encryption on them. And if you store, keep a lot of times they'll do is they'll store the form submissions on the website in the database of that website. And again, that's a no-no because that could get hacked, that could get out there, and anything you have identifiable as a person's name or condition, that's out there too. And if it gets sent from the website form to the email address, right, of like the front desk, that can happen, but it has to be encrypted all along the way. So we actually use specialized services that are HIPAA compliant, that are encryption services, to pass that information from the forms on the website to the front desk as an email notification. But if it's just happening, like, hey, most of the time it's just a regular email that goes out. And again, that's not safe. That's not HIPAA compliant to be doing that.
Well, and speaking of HIPAA, like you're mentioning forms and you're mentioning the website, but the number of people, clinics who are using either themselves or working with an agency that's working with like a MailChimp or Constant Contact, or, a third party email client, and they're uploading their email list into that, that's breaking HIPAA compliance. Even if you only have the first name in the email, like you're putting yourself at risk there. So I think that's something to watch out for. There's so
Yeah.
many tiny details that
Yeah,
we
and there are some email providers out there that do offer HIPAA compliant services. But if you're using MailChimp, like you said, if you're using Constant Contact, Google their policies, Google, HIPAA compliance, MailChimp or whatever, and a lot of times you'll find out that they're not accepting, they don't accept that. So it's sort of at your own risk to do that and use those things. So, but there are other services out there like Active Campaign and a few others. We have our own private server and private system that's HIPAA compliant, to send out things there from a marketing perspective. Um, and so I think you had a story, right, of a physio in Canada, right, that you worked with, that was trying to save some money working with their agency, the local agency.
Yeah, our team spoke with someone, and he, not only was it a local agency, but it was a friend. So he's trying to help a friend out. And the friend designed his website, and the friend was a designer, right? And he built him a website that was aesthetically pleasing. And he paid a lot of money to this person. He wasn't really trying to cut corners. I mean, I think it was, cost effective, but the friend started doing these ad campaigns for guaranteed pain relief. And some competitors in his area in Ontario, they started looking at his website. He got reported to the College of Physio, which is a big deal in Canada. So he went through, I would say, several months of sleepless nights and worry. I'm not going to say he went through legal battles, but he was worried about it and just the impact it had on his staff. I mean, he came to us, he was at wit's end, and it was hard because he'd done something and spent about 2 years putting his effort in a certain direction, and the second year was more or less him waking up to this is not going to work, but he still wanted to like try to fix it, and it was so there were so many details to how this couldn't be handled, and he didn't have the bandwidth or the competence to be able to do it because he's a clinician, he's treating patients, and he's running a practice. And then, the friendship is strained over it. And on
Mhm.
top of that, he had issues with competitors in the area. So it was a big deal. I
Yeah.
would say that this, and even his staff was impacted by it. So because of course, the morale as he's going through these things, it was not a pretty situation. By the
Yeah.
time he came to us, he had lost, he couldn't count what he'd lost, but it was so much of, oh my God, what if I'd come to you guys 2 years earlier? Like how I could have avoided all of this.
Yeah, it's just one little mistake, right? It's just one little thing said the wrong way. I don't think there was probably any malice in that. It was just, it just is what it is, right? And those are the kind of like mistakes that can really cripple the business, right? And you can we've seen that happen too with clients who uh their marketing person who wasn't that experienced put something up on Google Business Profile and it got banned.
Yeah.
Oh man, and now your Google Business Profile is not showing up at all, and that's a huge part of how people find you today, right? So again, if you have there's this trade-off, right? You're going to get something for cheap, but you're putting yourself at a huge risk for mistakes to happen and for you to get banned online or get into trouble online or with legal entities if things are not set up that way.
And
So
I don't
yeah,
think
go ahead.
everybody, I think most agencies are really trying, like they have good intentions, but they're just not healthcare specific. So they can't know, like we've worked with what, 1,200 plus clinics, Neil. So like we've
Yeah.
learned a lot in the years that we've been doing this. It's very hard. There's a reason why we stay down in this one simple niche because we want to master that and not try to do everything for everybody
Yeah.
because we're gambling with their results and their finances as we do
Yeah.
it.
So it's like if you've got back pain, right, and someone says, "Oh, you don't need to go see that physical therapist. I've got a buddy that knows how that works out at the gym." Right? So go see him. So you're kind of putting yourself in the same situation there. Um, and so let's talk about too, like what we've seen also in terms of how a local agency can handle clients. And I think one of the challenges here, and I could totally get this because we started off in a very small fashion, and like most agencies are, and most agencies you have to think about they're gonna be probably like 15 people or less, right? So there's a lot to handle in marketing for a clinic, right? And for different businesses. And so there's content, there's web development, there's graphic design, there's SEO, there's advertising, there's all kinds of different hats that you need to have wear to get results, right? And so a lot of agencies will say, hey, we can do that for a very low price, but you're having one person handle absolutely everything, and it's a jack of all trades and a master of none. So we've definitely evolved our practice promotions where now we have over 90 people on staff and all kinds of specialists and developers and ad specialists, you name it, that can really be specialized, right, and know that particular marketing channel really specifically and all the nuances that go with that to get the best possible results. But what's some of the things that you've seen there as you've worked with clients and how they've had to deal with agencies in the past?
Well, it's interesting because you worked that like we're at 90-ish employees. We've more than doubled since I came on board 4.5 years ago. And I think in an agency, it is an area where size does matter. We have to bring it into account. What I see with people that reach out to us for the first time is they're afraid that by being a bigger agency that they're going to just be a number, but it's actually quite the opposite. A lot of agencies are going to try to be small, keep things as much in-house as possible, but they'll have one person that's supposed to do a ton of different things. But in the same way that an osteopath is not a chiropractor, an SEO, technical SEO specialist is not the same as an on-page SEO specialist. And a designer is not the same as a web developer. And a digital account manager is not the same as a Google Ads manager. We have a medical copywriter. Like our copy director is a physical therapist. Like you really have to know not only have people that are specialized in your niche, but have people that are specialized in the craft that they're doing. The danger with online and digital marketing is that SEO sounds like snake oil to people who don't understand it, but it is a very technical and intricate task, and it has so many nuances to it. So you really want to have people that are specialized in these things and then can report to you in layman's terms the results of here's what we did and here's the impact that it has. And here's what the concrete evidence of that in the terms of patients in your practice leads to. So that's something I see. Another thing I'll see sometimes is that people are specialists, but then they have like 200-300 accounts. Well, you can't possibly nuance the work that you're doing if you don't know your clients. You can't possibly have the time to meet with them, on at least a monthly basis, have a deep quarterly strategy call, where you understand what's happening in the practice, what makes this clinic different from the one down the street and from the other one in your client portfolio, right? So that's very, very, very important. Being 199 in somebody's 200 clients is not going to get you the results you're looking for. They're just going to be taking that same strategy and slapping it onto you. So it's interesting because we have this really cool framework, but we have people behind the scenes that get to know each account, and they're looking at that and analyzing how do we help this person.
That's crazy that you had one account person handling 200 different accounts, and there's 160 hours in the month, right? 40 hours a week, 160. How can you handle 200 accounts and give it any
I never thought of
attention,
that.
right? There's just no physical way. So that's crazy. Yeah, I know for our clients, like typically it's anywhere between 35 to 50 clients per account manager, depending on their capabilities and what service level that they're on. So, we're very tight about um, how many accounts that an account manager will handle, because we know that we need to give enough time and service to look over and keep pushing on results, right? So,
And we've learned the account manager doesn't need to be the one doing the SEO. They need to be the one managing that team doing the SEO. They're the ones coordinating behind the scenes to this whole other team, whether it's copy or the blogs team. Like they're a point of contact. But yeah, there's a whole group behind them. So I would look at the website. If I'm going to work with an agency, look at our team page, or try to ask for photos. Can you share us photos with your team? That's another thing. Just make sure if you want correct wording on your website and your marketing campaigns, we want to make sure they're also in the US, right? That's another important thing to factor in.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of confusion out there. I mean, the digital marketing space just exploded here over the last like 5 years plus, right? And so it can be really confusing as you see all these things pop up on Facebook and Instagram, right? These different agencies in your area that are calling you or reaching out to you and telling you this thing or that thing. So how can you tell if these places are legit, that they're not just like scamming you?
Well, I think they've got to be upfront about their prices. And as someone who works in the sales field, I think it's really important that their price is their price. We're not selling solar panels of cars, and we're not trying to, take advantage of people. We are putting as much effort as possible as we can in a price plan to create the most revenue in the clinic. So that's important. Clear and honest pricing, but also what you should expect to see, right? But if something smells too good to be true, it probably is, right? So I think the second thing to watch out for is if somebody's saying you're going to be number one on Google next week, that's not possible. Number one on Google is a fight And there's a lot of very skilled people that are fighting for that position. So real marketing does take time. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And in the same way that when I don't know, we both have kids, like they're born, they're tiny, they grow. We're in it for the long haul, right? We're not saying, they're going to graduate college the day they're born. So we have to look at it like as this business is scaling, the marketing is going to be growing along with it, right?
Mhm.
I think it's important for them to be able to show what they've done for other people that are in a similar demographic, right? So can they show you case studies? Can they show you actual clinic results? Now I'm always careful on my team. We don't really like to show the results of local people because that can get touchy, but who's similar to you and who can you speak to? If you're a pediatric practice, is there somebody I can call? Is there somebody I can ask what it's been like working with you that will tell me with a live voice, right? So I think that's important is references. Google reviews of the actual agency. I want to see several years of reviews on this agency, right? And they need to really be focused on that long-term growth. Where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10 years? Unless you're planning, I don't think anybody comes to us planning to abandon their practice in 6 months. But they want to, sometimes it's funny because they come and they want to like get quick results and then maybe I'll just go after that. Like we're looking at the long term. They can go at a certain point, but we're looking at the long term. And we're hoping that again, in 5 years and 10 years, we're still going to be working together and growing their practice and opening new locations. And we have so many examples of that. I think it's important. Sorry, I have like a whole list that I'm thinking of. It's just coming to me. So I think it's important also that they have meetings. I think that they need good communication. They need reporting from their agency. At the bare minimum, a monthly analytics report that can be understood by a non-marketer, right? As a clinic owner, you don't need to get your Google Analytics certification, but you should have something that lays it simply for you. Here's how many people are coming into your clinic or asking to come into your clinic through the marketing efforts that you're doing. And then you can sit down and do the math on your ROI. Is this agency generating money for my clinic or is it just a vanity product?
Mhm.
And then again, the reputation. I think it's really important talking to other people in the space. The great thing about like us, we work with PT, people ask each other, they talk, and we've got a lot to protect as far as our reputation goes, the results. But if somebody seems like things aren't fake, if they don't want to let you talk to people that they've worked with, I would be careful because you might feel like you're saving money going with them, but it's not. I don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. Like we don't want the cheapest house and we don't want the cheapest car. Why? Because we know where the cheapest house is and we know that the cheapest car isn't going to get us where we want to go for more than a week or two, and then we're going to be sinking a lot of money into it. But sometimes when people are looking for investing into their business, they're looking for the cheapest way they can do that. And I think it's a really dangerous game because that is their primary source of revenue, not only for themselves and their income, but their families and staff. So we want to make sure that we're putting our investment into something solid that will generate those results for them.
Yeah, like you said, it's about value, right?
Yeah.
It's about what you want to get a good deal, but you got to pay to play, right? And we've had a few different experiences where clients actually left us uh, to go to something cheaper, right? And then they came back because they realized, you get what you pay for, right? So if you're looking for results, and ultimately at the end of the day, you're why you paying a marketing agency, right? You're trying to get results from that. You're trying to get more new patients. You're trying to get more revenue from that. And so you can get a little bit out of it or not much effect, but you're paying a low price, or you pay for someone who knows what they're doing and you get good results back and it pays you back tenfold. And that's marketing, right? It's all about return on investment, that ROI. So ideally you want to be getting close to like that 10 ROI for every marketing dollar that you're putting in. And I'm really happy that we can make that happen for many of our clients in that space.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
It's funny you bring up the clients that left us and come back, and they will remain unnamed because we love them. But I know that we communicated and partnered together before they came back. These were clients that were on our lowest tiers or our lower tiers. And we didn't make them come in at the top, but we made them at least come in on the middle. And they've been, and there was one where she came in on the middle and now she's on the top. So that's been neat to see because they weren't happy when they weren't investing. And then they wanted back in and we said, okay, but here's how you're going to be happy. Let's do it this way this time. They listened to us and they've gotten great results. And those are the neatest case studies to be able to show and share with people that are thinking about coming on board. I love that stuff. It's so fun.
Yeah, I do too. That's what our purpose is, right? To help our clients be super successful so they can, obviously help a lot more people in their communities get well and get healthy, right? So that's a big part of what we do. So now we talked a little bit about this before, but let's come back to it again, is that we're in healthcare, we're having to deal with HIPAA. And so how does HIPAA impact marketing?
Yeah. Well, if you don't have, I mean, I'm sure you know this 1,000 times better than me as a physical therapist. Like, it's going to cost the clinic financially. I can't remember the fine rate. I think it goes up to 150,000 for a
It's
violation.
crazy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Some of the fine rates on there.
So and a single error by an agency, can't it be a violation on multiple, like it can be multiple violations within one.
Yeah.
So potentially a clinic that is struggling or smaller that has a HIPAA violation, that could make the difference between whether they're able to keep staff or even for the clinic owners to compensate themselves.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, one thing you want to definitely ask is, make sure that that agency signs a business associates agreement with you. Like, that's critical, right? Because what that does is it puts the burden on the marketing agencies to make sure that they are doing things that are HIPAA compliant, and vendors they might be working with that are HIPAA compliant, and the systems and things like that. So that's really a must. It's definitely something that we do for every single client is have included a business associates agreement. That just helps protect you as a business.
I've seen people that don't want to do that. They just want to come on board without any kind of agreement. And
Mhm.
we tell them it's for your protection. We're committing to you, and this is our engagement to you. And you signing us, that holds us accountable as well to deliver in what we've promised.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did talk about this a little bit before, but just some things to consider would be what email system that you're using, right? That's a biggie. Make sure that you're not uploading patient lists to non-encrypted sites or sites that are not set up for that. Make sure that you're not saving your patient forms in your website database for long term, right? And if you're getting email notifications from your current website forms and things like that, that you're making sure that that's in some sort of a encryption service, as it talks between the website and it talks between the email server.
I know that even we handle something manually on our end where we're on, I think it's every 10 days, where we're moving any kind of contact information from the websites. People, if they want to go, the website's theirs, but they have to do that themselves after that, right?
Yeah.
So WordPress isn't going to do that for you.
Yeah, and simple things that we do too, like if we're doing print jobs, things like that, we're password protecting and encrypting different patient lists and sheets and things like that. Have training with your staff on HIPAA compliant rules and things like that. That's stuff that we do. And we're actually call tracking. We have call tracking too, but it's all done through a HIPAA compliant, system, right? That tracks calls in, but then keeps all that data in a HIPAA compliant server system there. So yeah, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes in terms of technologies and processes and procedures that need to be thought about. And that's why we only specialize in, physical therapy and chiropractic and orthopedic. Like we really like nailed it down to that because we know what we're doing in those spaces, and we've really geared our systems to be compliant in those spaces. So someone again who's working with like restaurants or pet groomers or whatever it may be doesn't really understand what needs to happen behind the scenes to make sure that that's all kosher with the legal entities, right?
So
Um, and so, coming back to our Google here. So one of the big things that we're trying with as an agency, right, is that you might be reaching out to agencies like, I want to rank better on Google. I want to be found better on Google. And so, what are some things to watch out for there with that agency, right? If they're promising, hey, you're going to be like number one on Google.
well, number one on Google is such a catch-all, but number one for what, right? What are people who want to go to your clinic searching, right? So a lot of clinic owners think that people are searching physical therapy, chiropractor, but we know we have other keywords that people are searching, and if I'm in pain and I'm in your area, and then it's not just number one on Google, but it's number one on Google for people in your area that can be patients. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. Nobody in San Diego needs to be number one on Google for me when I'm looking for chiropractic, but the people around me should, right? But a lot of agencies will just say, yeah, we'll get you number one on Google because it's a great way to get that hook to get the client in. But 30 days, it's not going to happen. And first of all, it's not going to always be number one. You're going to be fighting with other people who are good at that, right? So it takes time. I always think of SEO, it's like making a baby, it grows, right? So you have that 3, 6, 9 months, then it comes out of the womb, then you think it's only another, it's got to grow. So what happens is you become in that first page of Google and you want to target that maps pack, those top 3 for local. And by the way, that's a whole other type of SEO. We have the website SEO, but we all know if I'm looking for a restaurant or physical therapy, one thing that is similar is I'm going to probably call whoever appears in the maps, right? But you're always going to be fighting for it. And you're going to be fighting for it for more and more keywords, but the ones that are pertinent to what people are searching in your area and very high intent, right? So achieving top rankings, it is so detailed. There's so much research that goes on behind the scenes, and we actually will take a client when they're in the onboarding process. And sometimes when we have somebody that's a little outside of our normal niche, we do it even in the sales process. We get the buy-in from our SEO team. This is how we're going to strategize for this one. And we work on content creation, ongoing adjustments, weekly SEO, whether it's on page or technical. And the technical SEO, the way I always explain it is like, if I parked my car at my mechanic's house, and maybe if I was his daughter and he was servicing it on a nightly basis, that's what the technical SEO is, right? We think of the car, it's pretty, it's got nice paint, but we want that perfect engine. And so the SEO is really the motor that's going to drive you to the top of the Google, right? So we're going to work on that strategic long-term plan that's going to keep your motor running over time and make sure that your site's authority, how much Google likes it, is being built in relevance gradually. So we do that for SEO, and then you pair the ads to get something a little bit quicker. But we have to be realistic, and we have to be realistic with how much time it's going to take. You're going to see those improvements at 3 months, at 6 months, and more. And it really has to do also with where you are. If I am in the middle of nowhere, I'm going to be number one before I come see practice promotion, but I might not have anybody visiting my website because I didn't put the right words in there, right? So we know, we get it. Like a lot of people come to us and they've been promised all these things and super disappointed. And that's where we get the people that don't want to sign the BAA and things like that. And we are different. Our goal is going to be sustainable growth. And we want to partner with our clients, not over a year or 2 years, but decades, right? We want to be with you for 10 years, 20 years, and help your business grow until you retire and pass it on to the next generation. That's really our vision. Doesn't mean people have to stay that long, but we really are looking at this practice as how can we deliver steady, sustainable growth?
Absolutely. And so when it comes to Google, like one of the the main keywords, of course, is going to be like physical therapy, right? Physical therapy near me, right? Chiropractor near me. Like those are the low hanging keywords that you're just going to go after. They're service based, right? So you want to obviously be ranking as high as you can for service based. And the thing to understand too with Google is it's very dynamic. Google changes things all the time, like 500 updates a year. And they don't tell you when they've done it. They tell you after that, hey, things changed. We just released an update. Guess what? And so you have to scramble, and you have to think of it as a battle, right? There's other people that are fighting for the top two, and you're trying to scramble to get to the top, and there's certain things that you're trying to do to make sure that Google likes you the best, right?
Yeah.
Think you're the most relevant, and that's when they're gonna, put you up at the top there. So, but it does change. It bounces around, it fluctuates all the time. The other part of that too is that our philosophy is to not only focus on those service-based keywords like physical therapy near me, but also condition-based marketing, right?
Yeah.
And condition-based marketing means that we're able to cast a wider net for what people are actually searching by. So the majority of people out there are not searching by just let me find my local physical therapist, right? They don't know too much about what you actually do. What they are searching about on Google is they're looking for help on their pain or their problem. So they might be typing something like, I hurt my rotator cuff, or how can I get rid of this sciatica? And so if you're able to have good content on your page, on your website, sorry, that's is dedicated to that particular, content, they're going to find you where they weren't even thinking about you before. And so that just means you're able to cast that wider net in your area, what people are actually searching for, which is help for their pain or problem.
I agree. And a lot of people who come to us don't realize that. They think that they're targeting people who are looking for physical therapy or chiropractic care or an orthosurgeon, but people are looking for help, and they're going to be putting in Google searches, like back pain help, back pain treatment, neck pain, shoulder pain, or, how can I enter query, and you want to pop up for those words. And it really is a different mindset. Nobody is Googling Schroth. Nobody is Googling decompression. Like, those are great. It's great. The laser is great. And we have those pages on people's websites. But what we really want to appear high for is things that people who are not even necessarily in the physical therapy quest, but they have a problem. And we're also helping people avoid like harmful surgeries and, maybe medications that aren't going to fix the problem, right? So there's an element to this that I really love, that we're helping these practices improve the lives of the people that they're touching, right?
Yeah. I mean, we want them to get to our clients before they go down the surgical route, right? Or things
Yeah.
that they don't really necessarily need, right? So, we deal with this often here, which is that there's a lot of low priced options out there. So that's not necessarily a good sign, right? And let's talk a little bit about why that is.
Well, why is it a low price, right? So we, we do receive the quality of what we invest. I've seen people who were working with an agency that, like you said earlier, just ran the Facebook ads or Google ads. And we've had people come to us and, why can't you just do my Google ads, right? And I like to tell my team it wouldn't be ethical, right? Because if we're running Google ads to a website that's not turning people into patients, all we're doing is taking money for managing them and allowing that person burn through cash on Google. So usually when there's a low cost, there are corners that were cut in the strategy, because in the same way that when I go to physical therapy, I need a holistic strategy to heal a scoliosis, right? You can't just go get your back popped. It's got to be a holistic strategy. And we have so many details that pull into that. So I would be really careful about anybody who's offering, there's that adage when you're even doing work on your house, like get several estimates and don't go with the cheapest, because
Yeah.
you're gonna have to redo the work.
I've seen physical therapists that will treat just for a copay, right? Trying to get anybody in the door. So would you go to a physical therapist is going to take $20 for your copay, or you've got some really highly skilled, let's say cash-based guys, right, that charge $300 an hour,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to get at the end of the day what you're paying for there, right? And so just like you in your practice, you should definitely be charging what you're worth, right? And making sure that you're not taking very low reimbursing insurances. Because if you can market well enough, you can fill up your clinic with patients that are having much better insurances or willing to pay out of pocket or out of network, right? If you market it right. So that's the key thing to look out to is that, you know, we can become, as practice owners, we can become very cost focused
Yes.
instead of revenue focused and profitability focused. And you can fall into that trap, and it can be quite dangerous if you just go down the let's cut expenses as much as we can instead of how can we generate more revenue? How can we generate more profit in the business? So
Yeah.
just like you should be running your business, that's what you should be looking for in people that you partner with for marketing.
You do get
Um,
what you pay for. You know, it's a cheap service isn't going to be able to provide the support that you need. And it's not a cheap service isn't going to be a generator of revenue. So what you
yeah.
want is for the dollars to multiply and come back to you.
And I'll say the most money you will ever lose in your practice is the money you never made, right? So if you have holes in your schedule, in your therapist's schedule that should be full all the time, that's money that you should have made, but you've actually lost. And so if you have, again, you're trying to save money by doing marketing and it's producing a trickle of a result for you, and that schedule is full of holes, then you're losing a lot of money. And I would go and say, like, over the week, how many empty slots do you have, right, out of your maximum potential in your clinic? Times that by whatever your average reimbursement is, and now multiply that by 52 weeks a year. And it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
right, that you're leaving on the table because you're not investing enough to keep those schedules as full as humanly possible, right, with bodies in the door, right? And that's kind of happened through good marketing.
Well, and then on the other side of that, since marketing is fully tax deductible, there are clinics that are holding back on their marketing, but they're just paying that money in taxes instead of reinvesting it in their own business. And I
Absolutely.
don't think people think about that.
Yeah, yeah. Most people don't realize that marketing is a tax deductible expense, right? And actually, it's not even classified as an expense. It's actually an investment because by definition, an investment produces your return on it, right? When you put money on a stock, it should produce you 5% back or more, right? So the same thing with marketing. You're going to put money into your marketing, it should produce you 5 to 10 times what you're putting into it, and it's tax deductible on top of that. So it's really a key benefit there. So we do a lot here with Google Ads. We see our clients who are doing Google Ads get tremendous results. But there's some nuances to how people structure paying for Google Ads. And so what are some of the things that you've seen there where prospective people have come in and we see them making mistakes with Google
Well,
Ads?
yeah, that's a great question. So I touched on it a minute ago when the agency just runs ads and they're not able to make sure that those ads are actually converting. I've seen people come where they don't have any kind of tracking. And then maybe the agency is talking to them about conversions, but what they mean is website visits. It's not people who are requesting an appointment. I think that's very important. The ads need to have a clear call to action, and that needs to be people who are requesting an appointment. And the agency needs to be able to report, here's how many it is, and even who in some cases, right? So that the front desk is able to match that up with the growth in the clinic.
Mhm.
Um, I've seen it happen where an agency will own the ads account. They'll want to start the ads account and just have um, the practice owner pay them. The problem with that is that the agency has a lot of control going on and the client doesn't have the visibility. And then the agency can also sometimes mark it up, right? So if you're giving Google $10, maybe the agency is actually only spending 7. So the bill that the clinic owner is receiving from the agency doesn't match up with what's actually happening in Google. We
Yeah,
like,
there's like two different ways of paying, right, for Google
yeah,
Ads with an agency. So one is you could do a flat rate with the agency where, this is how much it is a month, and then you pay Google directly, or you pay the agency the ad spend and they get a percentage of the fee. And like you said, the problem with that is that there's less control on the client side, right? On the practice owner side, they don't know, they could be charging, you know, 40% on that, 30% on that. And so you think you're spending $1,000, but you're really only getting $500 or $600 of ad spend, and the rest is going to the agency. So um, it's much more transparent. It's much more of a best practice to have a flat rate, right?
yep.
It's to your benefit as a practice.
I think some agencies will lean on Google Smart Campaigns, things like that too. So again, healthcare is a whole different beast, and we really want to know what's going to convert those people into patients, not just to set it and forget it. The client having access to that ads account, being able to look at it, see that people are actually working on their ad spend and it's their card and they agree on the budget with their ads manager, that just gives so much control and transparency back so that we're held accountable, right, to get that cost per patient as low as possible and to get as many patients as possible in the door for that ad spend. But we're not charging per individual lead. We have a
Mhm.
flat fee and then we're working on the results and we keep it simple like that.
Yeah, I was great what you said there about the Google, smart, what they call it again, smart ads. I think that's what they
They're
call it.
not that
Something.
smart.
They're not that smart.
At least for medical. They're probably Google's way smarter than me. I want to be
Yeah,
humble,
yeah.
but I don't think they're smart in our space.
Well, here's the caveat, right? Is that Google's model is to get you to spend money on ads, right? And that's how they make their money, right? So uh, the key thing is, and this is why it's not a good idea to run Google Ads yourself, or an agency that says, hey, we're going to run Google Ads, but they really don't have much experience, and they're just going to run those smart campaigns. The problem with that is that Google makes a lot of recommendations that aren't applicable to a physical therapy clinic or a chiropractic clinic or a private healthcare clinic, right? So it's actually going to cause you to spend a lot more money than you need to and put you on networks where people wouldn't really be thinking about going to a PT clinic. So if you show up on someone's game on their iPhone, they're not going to be in the mindset to say, hey, I need to go check this out and interrupt my game. That's just a complete waste of money, right? So those are the kind of networks that Google will put you on when you do an ad spend. And so if you follow all of the Google recommendations in the Google ad campaigns, it's going to cause you to spend way more than you should be, and get way less results. So you need to have people that know what they're doing to set those up properly and manage them properly to get you that best dollar for conversion out of it at the end of the day, and get the dollar for the cost of a customer acquisition in.
Well, it's truly in Google's best interest for themselves that you spend as much money as possible in Google Ads. And that's why we really focus on like get the cost for one unique patient as low as possible. So we'll encourage people, go for it. Let's spend money, but let's analyze that cost per unique patient so we can grow your practice with the money we're spending, but not suck it out and experiment with somebody's credit card in order
Yeah.
to, yeah.
So Sam, lots of great advice here for our audience today. Thank you so much for your insight and your input there. Any last words of wisdom here to our audience about working with a local agency versus a specialist agency?
I think that the proof is in the pudding. I hate to take a minute and boast on practice promotions, but again, like I've been able to see things from the inside. And I know we were in a meeting yesterday with Matt. He's our copy director, physical therapist. And I remember he was saying, I think I'd like to quote him. He said it wonderfully. He said, if I had realized when I owned my PT practice all that goes on behind the scenes here, my mind would have been blown. So I just think that you really want to be wowed. You want to be wowed from the beginning to the end. You want to be wowed when you meet with the team and you're thinking about being a client. And you want to be able to dream about, okay, this is how this could grow my practice. And knowing that they've been able to do that for others. And if you find that elsewhere, give us a call. But I think that, you know, that's the main thing is looking and seeing who can really help me and who can get my practice where it needs to be, because I'm ready to grow and I want to, you know, just look out for the long-term strategy of this clinic.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Sam. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. And thanks for all your insight there.
Thanks for having me.
And to our audience out there, thanks for following us here. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media channels, YouTube, get tons of advice. Go to practicepromotions.net. We got lots of free advice for you, blogs and tips and all kinds of great stuff on how to market your practice and grow your clinic. I'm CEO of Practice Promotions, again, Neil Trickett here, and I am wishing you much success in your practice.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to get your free practice marketing sample kit at practicepromotions.net/kit. Start 2024 off the right way by building marketing systems that automatically attract new patients from online. That's practicepromotions.net/kit.